Hi everyone, I'm Justine and we're here with the Rainbow Activation Code. Welcome. I'm here with Jenny Leckie, who I interviewed earlier, and she has helped me find this amazing woman we're going to interview today, Claire Burgess.
Yay! Hi. Thank you so much, Justine.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today. I'm so excited to learn more about what you do.
Yeah, thank you. Me too, me too.
Cool. So Claire Burgess is also known as the Word Witch, and she's a tarot practitioner, educator, and writer living in Portland, Oregon. And her website, so you can connect with her further, is thewordwitchtarot.com. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So you two go way back, right?
Yeah, by way back, it's like a month and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that goes way back.
Possibly knew each other in past lives.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's what I think. Because the kind of like instant connection is something that I've only encountered like 2 other times in my life. Once with like my best friend and then once with my partner. So yeah.
Clear past life connection there.
Absolutely.
But the way Claire and I ended up getting together, and I encourage this for like anybody in the healing community or anybody that's trying to make friends or connect, is I literally on Instagram just saw who was from Portland and was like, hey, I just moved to Portland. I'd love to take you out for coffee or drinks. And that's what we did. Like Claire said yes and just showed up as herself and we clicked. So test that out.
Yes, absolutely.
Such a beautiful way to just like reach out in vulnerability and find your soul tribe, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And I, of course, like, I have a soft spot for people that just moved here because I also only recently moved here about 6 months ago. Wow. So I know the struggle of moving to a new place is real. The struggle of finding friends as an adult is real. So like, let's connect. DM me.
Yes, please do. I want to just, can you give us like kind of like a background story? What brought you to working with tarot?
Absolutely. So, I mean, a lot of people got a deck when they were a teenager, you know, and they'll take you all the way back to then. I did get a deck when I was a teenager. I bought it myself. There's some myths out there about you can't buy your own deck. It has to be given to you. I went to Barnes and Noble and I bought it. And I also, as a teenager, I was living in Birmingham, Alabama, which is where I was born and raised. And I really, really wanted to be goth, like super bad, which was really hard when your parents are, at that stage in my life, pretty conservative Christians, and would only allow me to wear like one piece of black clothing at a time. Like that was the limit. Like I couldn't wear black pants and a black shirt, only like one item of black clothing.
Wow.
Yeah. They really like harshed my fashion vibe, but yeah. And I was like secretly and subversively like trying to read tarot and practice magic, and like I bought all these books on Wicca and like stuff like that. And it was some sort of like expression of trying to find where I fit in, I think, because I did not feel like I fit in so many parts of life, in my high school in Birmingham, Alabama, in the late 90s and early 2000s. And as an adult, I've discovered so many other people who were originally drawn to things like tarot or the occult, as a child, because it made them feel like their weirdness was something magical, you know? And part of my, like, that weirdness that I had was that I was gay, but didn't know it, didn't fully accept it. You know, I knew I was bisexual. I thought I was bisexual for a while, and like went down that road, and yeah, but
I was the opposite.
oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, I want to be bi, but it wasn't accepted. And, or I feel that that's, you know, what feels closer to who I am. But I felt so much pressure to choose. So I'm like, I'm gay, I'm lesbian. And then kind of like had to kind of tear that apart and be like, no. I'm not. I'm actually like kind of like multifaceted, and I don't know that I have rules around that, you know?
Yes, exactly. And I'm very attracted to masculinity, which is like what confused me for a while and like led me towards a lot of cis men, you know. But and that was like a whole process, like throughout my 20s, of figuring that out. I'm still figuring that out. I also like have stuff with my like gender identity that I'm figuring out. Like presently I identify as non-binary, but not even that feels like it's exactly the right word, you know. And that's something that we can talk about too, is sort of like the limiting factors of these, like this language that we have and these labels we try to put on things, and all of that stuff, even including some labels like spiritual labels, like witch or Wiccan, or, you know, healer. Like, what does that mean? All these things give people an idea when you say them, but they're not necessarily representative of who we are. If that makes sense. Yeah. But to go back to how I found tarot, that was a tangent, but
come back in. I think this is a big theme that's
the foundation. Set the foundation.
Yeah.
Okay. I ended up leaving tarot and like shutting down my spirituality for a long time, because I got kind of scared. And I think I had a close call with my mom. And I remember taking all of my books on like witchcraft and tarot and everything, and taking my tarot deck and dumping them into the dumpster behind the mall, because I was too scared to put them in the trash can at my parents' house lest they find them as I'm trying to get rid of them. I would like to also take this moment, in case my parents ever watch this, to just let everybody know that they are not like that anymore. They're beautiful, wonderful, progressive, liberal parents, and I love them so much. But I left that and like shut that part of myself down for like a whole decade. And I didn't rediscover my spirituality until in my late 20s, when it like slowly started to emerge again. And during that time, that decade was one of the most dark, destructive periods of my life. Like there were moments of beauty and light within them, but I was just so out of touch, you know, with myself and with the universe. And I was subscribing to that idea that if that message we get about things being illogical or irrational, any sort of like woo-woo spirituality or healing or anything like that being illogical, even like people being gullible if they subscribe to it, you know, being weak-minded, when what's weak-minded is thinking that the only things that exist are what you can like hear and see and touch and prove, right? Yeah. That's being weak-minded. But it took me a while to come back to that and sort of erase that cultural conditioning that we get surrounding those things. And then when I refound tarot again and refound my spirituality, that's also when I rediscovered my sexuality and myself, and my like true expression. And my whole fucking world changed. So, and now I'm here. That's the short story.
I love that, like, this the sexuality is connected to the spirituality, and that's so much about like Kundalini energy. And what we've been talking about in this series is awakening, like our awakenings, and it's all connected, you know?
Yes, absolutely it is. And I think that the sexual is also spiritual. Being raised in the Christian church, as Jenny, I know you were too, we get all those messages that sexuality is bad, is sinful, it's something to be repressed, it's something to be like hidden. And the secret is no, God, no, that's not true at all. There's so much power in it. There's so much goodness and healing. It is spiritual. It's not sinful.
Someone recently, City Witch, if anyone follows her on Instagram, really kind of shifted this for me, because we were talking about, you know, Empress energy and like sensuality and sexuality. And from my past religious programming, like there's a lot of shame around that. There's a lot of shame around bodies, around desires, around like, I remember being in junior high and seeing a presentation where they're like, every time you kiss a boy or touch a boy, it's pulling this petal off a flower. And by the time you get married, you have nothing left. You have this stem. And so it was just always like, oh my gosh, you have a thought, like don't think about it, shut down. And, you know, everything gets shut down and tied up. And so someone was talking about the Empress because she didn't connect to the Empress in a motherly form, but as a sensual being. And what is a sensual being? It's someone that is connected to their literal senses. Their senses are creating an experience. It's the smell, it's the touch, it's the taste. And when I heard that and it shifted for me in that way, I was like, oh my gosh, I can be so connected. I can be so sensual, because it's literally this deep, like, expansion into the world around you. And it was like mind blown.
Yes. And I think that that's one of the most healing messages that the Empress has to offer, because that's a card that I've also struggled with. And the reason I've struggled with it is because of it's tied to the divine feminine and how the divine feminine is portrayed in that card, you know?
Tell us about your perspective on the divine feminine. That is such like a hot keyword in the spiritual community right now.
Yes. I think that it's so important to have some sort of, you know, version of the divine feminine, and to have like, you know, a goddess figure in our lives and in our consciousness, you know? My struggle with it though is that it's so often tied to being ultra femme. So you can be feminine and be like exist on a whole range of expressions as far as like feminine to masculine go, you know? And so often the Empress or the divine feminine is broadcast as this like essentially a being that is defined and somewhat dictated by her uterus and her genitals and her capacity to either menstruate or give birth or go through menopause. And in those three things, that's the standard maiden, mother, crone, trifold goddess that you might be familiar with. The symbol of the full moon with the 2 crescent moons on the side. That's the triple goddess symbol. The maiden is the young girl who's like, you know, just becoming fertile, like full of life and wonder and like sexuality. And then the mother is the mother, you know, nurturing, caring, there to give to others constantly. And then the crone is past childbearing age, and not sexual anymore, and a definite figure of like profound wisdom, you know. But while I do have connections to that goddess and that symbol, I actually have the symbol tattooed on me.
Awesome.
I also find that profoundly troubling, that so many conceptions of the divine feminine and goddesses and goddess energy in our lives are purely dictated by those reproductive cycles.
Yeah.
You know, and not all women have uteruses or uteri, whatever the plural of that is. Not all women who do have a uterus have menstrual cycles. You know, it's just so reductive. That was my partner.
Hi.
It's so reductive and so limiting to frame it in that way. And I don't know, I think that there's some consciousness work that needs to be done surrounding that.
Yeah.
We need to celebrate women in whatever form they're in, celebrate femmes, celebrate having children, celebrate having periods, celebrate, you know, having menopause, but also not define everything by it at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Will you talk about how you are using tarot like in the queer community, like addressing that, and also what do you see coming? Like, what is the reality that you are contributing to creating, so that if this message is resonating with listeners or people watching this video, that like if they feel connected with you, like how can they help create this future where it's inclusive and it's not so there's not so much separation?
Yeah, great question. I'm presently actually working on putting together a workshop about queering the tarot. Yeah, I just met with somebody earlier, or actually this past weekend, about having a place to have it here in Portland, but I also want to offer it online.
Please.
Yeah, so I'm putting together some programming for that, and it'll be, you know, a dive into sort of reclaiming the tarot as a source of inspiration and interpretation for people who are queer, or for reading for people who are queer if you yourself are not queer, you know, because
That's
I just
groundbreaking.
Thanks. There's other people out there that are doing great work around this as well. I know that Asali Earthwork has a list of queer and queer tarot decks that feature queer people and also people of color. There's a really long and great list on there. It's a wonderful resource. I believe the website Little Red Tarot has a column on it about queering the tarot. So there's stuff out there, guys, and you can find it. And like all that has informed me so much. But I think it's important for all of us to be aware of this and have other ways to access these energies and archetypes that are present in tarot, while not limiting them to male or female. You know, there's Empress energy in every single cis man out there, you know, walking around today. It's just so often tamped down because of the toxic masculinity in our culture, you know? So this isn't just something that it helps people who are queer. It also can help people who are cis, who are straight. It can help you access those parts of yourself that are in there, and that our culture and our society has taught you that you need to quiet or diminish or only nurture in private, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm working on launching some workshops surrounding that. And what was the next part of your multi-part question?
What is your vision? Like, what is the reality that you are creating? What do you see in full bloom around this work and this shift?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. My personal dream, and what I do think that we are moving towards as a society, although I doubt that we will see it in our lifetimes, I strongly doubt we will see it in our lifetimes, is moving towards a place where all of us are universally sort of, I don't want to say beyond gender or beyond sexuality, because sexuality is so much a part of us that there is no getting beyond it, and I don't want to get beyond it. I love it, but I want us to get to a place where we stop seeing things in such black and white, where we can really like occupy the full spectrum, the full rainbow, rainbow activation,
yes.
queer rainbow, like the full spectrum of ourselves and our souls and our bodies, and really appreciate it for everything that it is, and connect to each other in such new and profound, beautiful, whole ways because of that. Like, just imagine if everybody, like, fully knew themselves, was comfortable and confident in themselves, because they hadn't had this conditioning, this shame-based conditioning around bodies and gender and sexuality, and could really just fully express themselves. Like, what kind of things would we be bringing into the world then? What kind of like problems would we not have? It would just be so beautiful.
You are opening the door to a fluid existence.
Yeah.
Think about fluidity. Think about everything that's taught in the law of attraction and path of least resistance. And we want to step into flow. We want to live our lives day to day in a sense of flow. And if we're hitting these blocks and there's all of these rocks in the way and things are getting dammed, then there's something we've got to adjust. And like, you are laying this foundation for us to be able to flow like anywhere in our being, and for every corner, every aspect of that being to be okay, and not just okay, but to be celebrated. Like, that is so cool.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. Thank you for reminding me of that word, fluid and fluidity. It absolutely is what I'm talking about. But also, like, I'm so flattered, but I'm only like one person in like a whole slew of people that are doing great work in this area, and that have been doing great work in this area for a really, really long time, for decades. People have been doing it in private for centuries, I'm just one part of the puzzle. And I'm just starting.
Having the courage to do that and to step into your role as a leader in bringing this message forward. We need that. You're the first person in the Rainbow Activation Code series who's bringing up these issues, and that's huge.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Your perspective is such a key part of what the Rainbow Activation Code is talking about that rainbow spectrum of humanity, of how do we embrace all the aspects of ourselves. From all the little layers of the spectrum of sexuality to not only just like our chakra energy systems, but if we can find peace and acceptance with just our human being brother and sisters, and all, like, even not just that, like that is even genderizing and putting like contraction on it. So other human beings. We're all literally human beings. And so if we can come into peace also, okay, I'm jumping around. This, I see you and people who are coming into this, into their leadership, that we are the activators and we are the rainbow warrior activators. Like, we are talking about fully activating your whole self, and and then going back to like what that means. So in all these different families, we're coming out into the light. We're coming out. We're, whether we're queer or just spiritual or just goth, I mean, or anything, you know, like we're coming out and we're creating like a contrast and an activation in our families into like, and all of that brings about more peace and love. And then in the big future, from what I see, is it's creating an opportunity for our other light being races, for us to have peace and acceptance for that, if that were to ever happen, like to have that contact. If we were, I mean, I'm feeling that is something that's coming, and for me personally, it's showing up in my artwork a lot, and that's my first contact. And if I can look into the eyes of the beings that I'm painting and find love and acceptance in them and not be afraid of them because they look so different than me or anyone I've ever seen before, like they're activating me to a whole new level of love expansion, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
On that, but so
absolutely. Rising past differences, and not just like appreciating and accepting and loving people or things or, you know, whatever, in spite of differences, but also because of differences, you know, like I think that something that needs to be said is there's sometimes the kind of stuff I'm saying can be misconstrued as wanting everybody to be like a gender, or like, you know, just have like one kind of like flat gender or sexuality. And that's not true. Like, no, we all have our own like beautiful, unique variations on this, you know. And just because somebody is totally straight, like, that's awesome, you know, be totally straight. Like, nobody's saying that like you haven't fully activated because you're not fluid, you know. So I do want to like make that completely clear. And that's part of loving each other for our differences, you know, and appreciating each other for our differences.
Yes. Well, and it's holding the space to have that conversation too. Because I think a lot of times, especially if we're coming out of past programming, it's like we feel triggered by something, or we feel like something is right or wrong. And even though we have this idea that like, oh, I want to accept everyone, but I really think this is wrong. Like, it's about holding space for each of us to have that reaction, but then let's unpack that reaction. Let's look at what things we believe that are leading me to have that reaction, and really like recreating a completely new realm of truth.
Yes.
It's 111.
I love this. This is so great though, just talking to the two of you and having this like this 3-part exchange of ideas and conversation is just beautiful.
I agree.
Thank you both so much.
Yeah, thank you both so much for coming into my life.
Thank you for coming into my life.
And you also just said it's 1:11. Can I just say that for the past like 2 weeks, I have been looking at the clock every single time it's 1:11 or 11:11. Like it happens at least once a day. At least once a day. And I'm just like, what the, okay, message received.
Yes. Yes.
I'm doing something right.
In alignment, showing up.
That's so cool.
Well, I want to give you an opportunity to share the offer you were thinking.
Yeah, so I wanted to take this opportunity. I recently opened up my books for tarot readings on my website, thewordwitchtarot.com. I do distance readings via video chat or I have one email offering. I also do in-person readings in Portland. So check that out and hit me up. But I also wanted to offer a limited time. I feel like I'm like a used car salesman or something right now. Limited time offer of a free 1-card email reading. Justine will post the link to the landing page for it in the notes underneath the video. This is only good through the end of March 2018. That's this month. And yeah, so you'll have the opportunity to ask me like one question, you know, or even ask, like, you can just be like general energy reading, and I'll pull 1 card for you and hold space for you and, you know, see what comes through. And I would love to be able to do this for you for free. But also understand if it takes like a week or 2 for me to email it to you, because I'm busy. But yeah, please come check it out. Please check me out. I would love to pull a card for you and to get to know you and to have you be part of my community. So look me up on Instagram too at the.word.witch. Yeah, if you're in Portland, DM me and maybe we can be friends like Jenny and I. Maybe we knew each other in a past life. There's only one way to find out.
Yup.
Totally. Thank you again so very much for doing this with us and for, you know, being a part of the Rainbow Activation Code.
Oh, of course. Thank you, Justine. This is just amazing. This is such an amazing opportunity to be here and talk to you. And I'm just like, I'm just so excited right now coming off this conversation. Like, I'm pumped.
Me too.
This is great. Thank you for everything that you do. And you too, Jenny.
Yay, thank you. Okay, so visit thewordwitchtarot.com, and I send you so much love, Claire. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Soon.
Bye.